Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about how I made my first 100 Divines in Affliction League. Now, Affliction League has been quite interesting. There are always these mechanics that are already in the game that are quite strong that everybody knows about, and then on top of that, the new league mechanic could change something. And oh boy, does this league mechanic change everything. However, in my personal opinion, it doesn't really change anything for you if you still have an ungeared character. Some league mechanics start off easy, they get harder, but this one is just hard from the get-go. Basically releasing the dust onto the map, and all of a sudden you have these Exodia rares. And it doesn't really matter what mechanic you pair it with, it's always going to be super hard. Essences, Expedition, Legion, Harvest. So while I will talk about the league mechanic and when you should include it into your mapping at a certain DPS point, I would say, or a certain gear point, and I will in the future, basically all of my juicer strats will revolve around the league mechanic most likely. For this mechanic, we're going to focus on something that is actually doable. And for that, we're going to focus first around Expedition, which is just a household name at this point. However, we're going to use the Extreme Archaeology Keystone. Expedition always felt tedious to me, but ever since this keystone got introduced, I gotta say, it has been a lot more enjoyable. Basically, you just place one bomb, everything explodes. And then we're gonna pair that with Legion. Legion is just awesome. I am going to have a section for people who can't clear Legions yet as well. Just clean expedition tree. So at the start, we're kind of going to talk about the whole strat, and then later what you can adjust if you're not there yet, if you're just progressing. Now, disclaimer here at the start, this is how I made my first 100 Divines Plus. There's a lot of ways. There's probably better ways. I don't know. This is all I can verify because I actually used it. So in no way am I making a value judgment in terms of how good this strat is. It is a pretty well-known strat already, but in general, it just worked for me. But let's jump into it. What does the strat revolve around? Three things: Expedition, Legion, and Searing Eldritch Altars. First, starting with Expedition. So Expedition is an interesting one, and I'm going to do a test run later, and I'm going to tell you all about how you run it. But we're going to run it with Extreme Archaeology. Your first reaction might be, oh, this is kind of scary for me. However, we've basically been doing this ever since I put like 1 or 2 Divines into my build. And one of the things that really helps that almost nobody takes on the Atlas tree is Ancient Decay. Now, you might see that with Extreme Archaeology comes a line. Expedition monsters in your map spawn with an additional 10% of life missing. And this has the same effect. These are additive with each other, which means that they are just popping out with 30% of their HP missing, which is kind of like you have Slayer Call against Expedition. Now, when people think about the Atlas passive tree, they only think about getting juice. But the thing is, sometimes making enemies weaker to get to the juice is worth 4 points. And this node is absolutely crazy getting you there. At this point, I will probably not need it anymore, but it's still very nice to have, right? So the thing obviously about Expedition is how many dead mods do you have? More on that later. But in general, we're going for the good old thing, Ancient Writings, Distinguished Demolitionist. Now, we're actually not going for Wandering Path. Wandering Path makes stuff a lot harder if you take the nodes up here with the increased modifier of non-unique maps. Plus, Wandering Path really doesn't jive well with Expedition or Legion, so I would definitely spec out of that once you unlocked your Atlas. Other than that, a really straightforward Expedition setup. I guess the only thing that's a little bit different is this one right here. We just take basically all the nodes we can get in all the clusters. In terms of loot, this is the latest snapshot I made before we started selling. A ton of stacked decks is what you're gonna get. So there is one remnant mod that gives you stacked decks from either chests or enemies killed, and the thing with that Extreme Archaeology is it procs from the get-go, so all monsters are affected by it. So you don't have to search around for it, but it's just naturally occur. So I would say probably 40% of the stacked decks actually came from Expedition. Actually more because of Tujin as well. We're going to talk about the traders in a second. Then obviously a ton of logbooks, which can sell for 5 up to like 70C if you get lucky and you get a boss, maybe even a divine. And the rest is just going to be stuff like burial medallions, astragalies, which I think at this point all have been sold. Let me check real quick. Expedition, yeah. The reroll currency will basically drop like crazy. Now, in terms of Expedition vendors, we're focusing Danig and Tujin. Up here, you can basically decide which ones you want to have more often in your map. Extra chance to get Tujin, extra chance to get Danig. Just so you're aware, Danig is on average less in there because he's like the best, so to say. And his reroll currency is also worth the most. So it's still very good to get him, but you still won't see him often. However, you will see Tujin quite a bit. As for Tujin, we already did all our exotic coinages today, which was around about 300. Once again, the VOD of selling and gambling and everything together will be down below in the description if you want to see that. But in general, all you have to know is He gives you stuff, and then you can buy stuff for his currencies. These currencies you get from chests and from enemies slain. Now, if you have a Awakened PoE trade, I guess a few important things. You can actually price it out of here. You don't have to first buy it or like look it up or anything like that. So that's definitely good. Reroll currency is down here. And you can use scroll wheel to do this. Otherwise, you're going to kill your wrists. If you run out of currency, you can also go to Danik, which we will have reroll currency for this guy as well. He sells you more exotic coinages, but he also has good deals right here. So if you just care about Black Scythe currency, which is the currency that Tuju needs, then you can just type in Scythe or something, and it's going to show you whenever there is a deal. For example, the conversion rate here is not 1-to-1 like it would be standard. It's actually 0.6. Danik also sometimes sells logbooks on top of exotic coinages and stuff like that. So you can sell the Burly medallions if you want to. In general, I think that is a waste. Then we have Legion. Depending on your build, you're either going to have an easier or a harder time doing Legion. Depends on whether you have Explodey, whether you have Prolif, whether you're a clear build or kind of like a mishmash. But in general, you want to be able to full clear a Legion. There is stuff to help you out though. I actually cut some of these nodes that make the Legion longer, but it is worth speccing into. In general, there's just, you basically want all the notables. Almost all the notables of, other than Face-Off, are extremely good. Let's go over them. So the most important one is early on, you're not going to be strong enough to just instantly pop a Legion. So you're going to need stuff like Legion counters have increased duration, right? Legion monsters take 50% more damage. It's an absolute no-brainer. So if, for example, you're thinking right now, oh, I can't pop a Legion, definitely try with this one. It makes quite a bit of a difference. And then even more duration, chance for extra rewards. I would go as far as to say Legion is strong enough that even if you cannot fully clear it, even if you can only clear like 70 to 80% of a Legion, it's just so goddamn strong. However, you just don't want to go overboard. You don't want to go Sextant. We're going to talk about that in a second. You don't want to go Polished. You just throw in the bare minimum. There is definitely a place for that. You also want war supplies right here, everything that gives you extra Legion chests or increases the loot from Legion chests. What you do not want, this is the only notable you don't want, is actually anything to do with generals. Generals suck, they're tanky, and even if you have enough damage to one-shot them, they drop absolutely nothing. They're just annoying. Sometimes you get jumped on by the Templar or the Marikath guy and you're just gonna get one-shot. The only thing they give is splinters and emblems suck. Talking about emblems sucking, I just sold my 71 sets basically a second ago at the end of stream. And what I can tell you is that these do suck, but you're going to drop them like candy. So it's still worth going into emblematic and these small nodes right here. 5 sets are still selling for a divine. So while you don't want to pick up splinters, obviously, you definitely want to hide them from your filter. The emblems themselves are still worth it. But you want to hide everything else, even splinter stacks, right? Only the emblems that drop from emblematic are actually worth picking up. Now, we are actually using Legion on the map device. So Legion can be on the map device if you have 7th Gate. It costs 6 Chaos, and it is definitely worth it. That one and the Scarab, I'm going to go with that in a bit. 7th Gate basically makes it so you can have all possible League mechanics. Legion is not in the possibilities right now, so you need to get 7th Gate this league, otherwise you can't get it. So you just need to allocate all of these gates. Even if you don't use them, like around here, you just put that 1 pointer in, and then if you have all the gates, the other ones are here in the middle, then those options will appear on your map device. Now, when it comes to Legions, you will drop a ton of stacked decks, also from the incubators. People are super focused always on these emblems. The emblems don't matter. They're literally almost not there. You can almost forget about them. You get a lot of raw divines, a lot of currency drops. You get fossils. You get a ton of different things that will then sell for bulk in the end. But the biggest thing that people underestimate are incubators. This is where most of your money will actually come from. And the 3 incubators we want to talk about here is the Diviner's Incubator, the Ornate Incubator, and the Kulguran Incubator. These are the ones that you should use yourself. The Diviner's Incubator always gives you between 2 and 4 stacked decks. And right now, stacked decks in bulk are around about 2C each. That is huge. The Ornate Incubator looks bad normally, because normally currency reward means just some trash item, but Ornate Incubators have a high weighting for rare currencies. My average for a Divine from Ornate Incubators is round about 1 in 20, so that will tell you everything you need to know, even though it only drops 1 currency item. So if you ever wondered why somebody would buy 30 of these for a Divine, that is why. And then the Kulguran Incubator is just good because Expedition currency is usually money. Now, when you look at these incubators and you look at their effects, you also have to note how many monsters does it take to kill to actually get your reward? Because one of the incubators I didn't mention was Geomancer's incubator. It's okay to get a 6-link, sure, and sometimes it's even like a decent one, but it needs way too many kills to be completed. In that time, I could be getting, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these finished. Now, when it comes to all the other incubators, if you want them, you can pick them up, you can sell them, but I usually find it annoying. Also, sometimes you will have to portal out because your inventory will be full. Oh, one thing I forgot about the Legion strat. Right now, I'm running Corrupted Gaze, which might confuse you. Abyss Jewels found in Abyssal Troves or Stygian Spires have a chance to be corrupted and be higher modifier. The thing is, this also works for Legion chests. Now, I've already sold around about 10 to 12 divines in terms of these like high tier jewels, and I just threw the rest into a 1 divine tab. Especially think about the Ghastly jewels. Not all of these are 5 mod or 6 mod, but yeah, especially the Ghastly jewels. Some of them completely took me by surprise, where people were just insta whispering me at 1 divine. I had to reprice it and then I sold it for 3. So definitely be careful, especially if you're not a minion player. And I would definitely throw them all in a tab because you never know. Some of them I would have literally vendored and they sold for like, I don't know, 99 chaos. Obviously not all of them. Most of them are junk, but there is going to be stuff in there, and this only costs you 4 points, so it's definitely worth it in my opinion. But that is your choice. Now, after Legion, let's talk about Searing Exarch Altars. Now, obviously, everybody knows about altars. One thing that actually changes in this strat is that we're using jungle valleys. Now, why does that matter? There's 2 maps in the game currently. This one wasn't in the game last league, but there's also Mausoleum. These 2 maps have a boss that is technically not there yet when you spawn in. Now, if you've ever done altars, you know there's 3 different types. The one that gives global buffs, the second one that gives minion buffs, and the third one that buffs the boss. The thing is, if the boss is technically not in the map yet, because it's like kind of like a delayed boss, right? That means that you cannot get boss rewards. So we're basically just going to spam minion rewards for a ton of extra sextants and other bubblegum currency. So we're actually not going to kill the boss at all, which is going to make the map even more comfier. We don't have to wait for the boss. Important thing here is you should definitely go for Wrath of the Cosmos. I know it seems like you're going to get a lot squishier, but overall, I was able to level to 98 with it, so I don't know what you're going to play, but in general, Wrath of the Cosmos is worth the risk. Then we're obviously taking Light of Dawn. When it comes to Baptized by Fire, right now, invitations aren't worth that much. If that changes, like if the invitation gets up to like a divine or something, you can take it as well. Money from this will be anything in terms of currency, and then obviously also all the currency right here. You're going to get hundreds and hundreds of them, and also sometimes Eldritch currency. Now you might be asking here, why not blue altars? Aren't blue altars insane with the Lee mechanic? Yes, they are. The extra quant you get from the blue altars will be infinitely better than red altars in endgame. In endgame, when you're actually juicing, you're using sextants, you are getting as many rares as possible in your map. You have probably a headhunter, stuff like that. Yes, it's incredible, but that is a completely different strat. And yes, it would at that point be better. You would have to use the Lee mechanic though. And at that point, we're talking about a build that probably needs 50 to 100 mil damage minimum to actually kill some of these rares. Now, in terms of Atlas, I currently have 4 Void Stones. You only need 1 to do this strat. 1 is necessary for your Jungle Valley and the surrounding maps to be tier 60. Jungle Valley is right here, and next to it, there is actually 3 really good maps. Mud Geyser is good, Mesa is very good, and Art Lake is pretty damn good as well. When it comes to favorite slots, I would say as many as possible on your Jungle Valley. However, you will also need something for your connected maps because we're also using singular focus. This means that all the maps that are not on your favorite list can never drop, which isn't really a problem. Usually the problem with singular focus is that random boss completion maps could drop, but we're not doing the boss, so we're getting no downside there. So what you want to do is up to 10 or maybe even 11 you can put into Jungle Valleys, and then 1 or 2 you put into one of the connected maps that I just talked about. That's because those have more chance to show up, so you don't want them to get converted to trash currency. Now, if you have map sustain issues at the start, that might happen, especially if you don't do the League mechanic, take Arid Lake. Arid Lake is way better for our strat. The layout matters here, and I know Mesa is a meta map, but it's definitely not good for Legion. It's okay at best for Expedition, but it's absolutely garbage for Legion. So until you sustain, you really want to ping pong between Arid Lake, then you drop more Jungle Valleys, then you run Jungle Valleys, you drop more Arid Lakes, and so on. However, at a certain point, you will be able to just sustain Jungle Valley. And at that point, you should probably favor in mesas and then sell them to other players. Other than that, we also have some map sustain on the Atlas passive right here with the higher map tier chance. Down here, over here, we do not choose to path over there. We are blocking some league mechanics. We're blocking basically everything but Mirror of Delirium. Mirror of Delirium is actually good enough to still keep it. Sometimes you get it randomly. I don't think it's worth really speccing into. But yeah, that is about it. Just make sure that your 7th gate is actually activated. You have all of these gates allocated. And also take these 3 notes here. They're also pretty good. Now then, let's talk about how much to invest into your map. This is something that's kind of like fluid. It doesn't mean that just because I juice this way means that you need like 20 chaos per map or something like that. I will talk all about it. Chisels are mandatory. They're too good not to use. Rare. And then you basically have to reroll into whatever map mods you can run. Little tip here, definitely use PoE.re/maps right here. Go to the map modifiers, and then you can basically choose the mods you don't want or the mods that you want on your maps. Mostly you're going to choose the ones you don't want to filter out for them. You select them, and then you get this little regex up here, and you copy it. Then you paste it into your map tab or whatever, and it's going to show you the maps that have mods that you cannot run. For example, here I have 2 corrupted ones that I cannot run. You basically just make everything rare, and then you reroll until those are shown up again. Big help, can definitely recommend. So after you did that, all right, you're ready. What do you put in? So if you don't have the currency for Legion yet, or you can't do Legion yet, go quantity. However, with the 7th gate, 6C for a Legion is always worth it. It is incredible. Then what you do is, let me put myself a little bit on the side. Keurig missions, you can do them if you want to, but they're just going to slow you down. Nico is all right if you're doing some on the side. My personal recommendation would be Rusted Legion and Polished Expedition Scarab. Now, as of this recording, if we're talking bulk prices, Rusted Legion Scarabs are around about 5 to 6, actually more like 6 chaos each, with Polished Legion Scarabs actually being a little bit more expensive. The reason Polished Legion Scarabs are so expensive is because the juicers are running it, right? Because if you're going full ham on it, then you should definitely go polished. But in this strat, it's just a part of it. So as you can see right here, these are 16 chaos. Do not use them. Sell them to other players. These are only worth it if you're also using Sextant, which we are not because we're lower investment, and you're using a perfect layout like Dunes, for example. Definitely just go for the Rusted Legion. Here, it's a little bit more ambiguous. So basically right now, Polished Expedition Scarabs are still pretty damn cheap. I think they're around about, yeah, around about 4.4 chaos each. They're definitely worth it over Rusted Expedition, even at like 5, maybe 6 chaos. But in general, if you want to go safe, and if these go up for some reason, some people just like follow whatever I say, you can definitely go for Rusted Expedition Scarabs. Rusted Expedition Scarabs are already going down, I think 3 chaos, yeah, even 2 chaos. So there's not really that big of a deal. However, Polished Expedition will give you a lot more logbooks. Another thing to consider here is that with the Keystone here, with Extreme Archaeology, if you're a build that has some mods that completely brick your expedition, and you have like 3 or even 4 of them, it will happen a lot more often than some builds who only, for example, I only have 1 mod that bricks me. So if that happens, sometimes you will break your expedition, and you don't want to break your expedition when you're paying 5 chaos, but if you're only paying 2 chaos, it's kind of in the cost. It's not that big of a deal. You also want to make sure that your Searing Exarch is ticked right here, and then we just go in and do an example run right here. How we go down, we go Legion, and we're ready to blast. So I will quickly talk about the league mechanic here, because the league mechanic will make your encounters a lot harder. This is especially a big deal because in Legion, if something is super tanky, you have to free it first. And if you don't free it in time, it's not even going to show up as a rare. You just lose it. And that is kind of a problem. I will do the league mechanic right here, but I will talk about it at the end of the video. Definitely make sure you have a character that's ready for it. This league mechanic is no joke. Now, if you're wondering what's on my mini-map, this is basically, I think my thing shows up, yeah. This is from the New Ascendancy. If you have never tried this New Ascendancy before, I'll just put it in here. This node right here makes you see every unique mob and every rare mob, which also counts for legions. So you can basically just know where legions are not unlocked yet. It's very nice for knowing where to go next in your legion. Now, in general, there's a lot of strats here. You can fish for the boss, which would be that you go diagonal, kind of, and you basically, whenever you see wisps, you actually go the other direction, because that way you can find the boss the easiest. The boss is not associated with any of those. But if you just want to go for juice, you want to follow these trails right here. That is up to you. In this case, make sure that you don't just randomly take all of these. Some of them have crazy downsides, and on top of that, there's one that completely disables your loot for like a little bit extra experience. So everything you did to juice your map is just completely useless. So you can just go around right here, pick up as much fairy dust as you want, and just make your map a little bit juicier. At the end, it's going to get spread over the map. So we're just going to do that real quick. Let's see whenever we run out. This is a pretty bad one overall. I guess we still have like 2,000 juice. It's not the end of the world. All right, we got it. And now we're out. So I will show you whenever we get one of these Exodia mobs, you will see very quickly that some of these mobs are going to get incredibly tanky. As you can see right here, we are always going to get the Searing Exarch mods that have... So we're not going to get any boss completions. Only minions or global. You don't want to take global, just take minions. So we freed it right now. So the only thing you have to think about here, if you're an arrow-based build, is there is some like kind of woods here, which can be a little bit annoying. Definitely replace your ballistas. Always take minion reward. Don't even think about it. Don't waste your time. And as you can see right here, I see where my rares are on the map. I see where the unique are the chests, basically. So yeah, now I just basically freed everything. Maybe there was like a mob missing somewhere. And yeah, always kite them. Just kill it like a normal legion. Pretty easy so far. I want to remind you that you should definitely redo your filter before you do this, because otherwise, if you're picking up every single splinter, you're going to take way too long, and those are not worth it picking up at all. So in this case, we got a pretty easy map, apparently. No really challenging rares or anything like that. We didn't get that much juice as well. I think that the yellow juice is the one that gives HP. No, damage reduction. I think flat damage reduction. But yeah, so as you can see right here, we're just going to break the second legion open. And yeah, just a little bit more loot. Pretty straightforward. Make sure that you get those rares. Those are usually the ones that stay up. If you have a Mirage Archer or if you have Ballistas and you just place them, they will automatically shoot at whatever is left. So then usually it will be up. So if you have increased duration of passive tree, this is the downside. I spec'd into it because I wanted to show it off. But if you have a character that already clears everything like I do before it even runs out, sometimes there's like a bugged mob or it's like behind a tree or something and you're just there and you have to wait. So in that case, you should probably respec that duration as well. Now we're at the expedition. So here's the thing. This is important. Right here. You place it first next to him. You don't look at any mods yet. You look, and if it's not yellow or there's no mods here that you need... So I guess a lot of you guys will have hits can't be crits. That's something you have to look out for. Enemies have a 100% chance to not be ignited, blah, blah, blah. Those kind of mods you have to look out for, and they are in blue. But all the other, like immunity mods, are all yellow. So if you see no yellow here, for my build, for example, that means I'm good. If there was immune to chaos, let's say there was, I saw immune to chaos down here. What I would do is I would just run up and I would be like, oh, so here's immune to chaos. So all I would do is I would undo placement and I would place it a little bit further down, right? And then I place it again. And now I see, oh, there's no immune to chaos anymore. And then I explode it. So that's all I can do. As you can see right here, all the mobs are only spawning with like 70% of HP. It is very laggy. It is incredibly laggy. And I just jumped right in the middle for some reason. This is another reason, by the way, why you want to be careful with the dust. Is if you get the dust that increases enemy damage, stuff like what just almost happened to me can happen to you as well. So that's why I'm saying the league mechanic is incredibly rippy, and you have to be careful of it. Here we have a third legion. So we just got lucky. We have one from the Legion Scarab, we have one from the map device, and then you have a chance to get a third one from the passive tree, and we got that third one right here. In this case, there's a few ones here. You can see Primal Empowered. So these are definitely a little bit tankier overall. This is mostly the reason why I'm speccing the extra duration. In this case, we're probably not even gonna be able to free everything open. In general, I would say it's more important that you break open the chests than breaking open those empowered mobs. But yeah, if that is a choice you have to make constantly, then I would probably just not go for the league mechanic at all. Just... if you're curious, I didn't do the league mechanic for the first 3 days or so until it got nerfed a little bit. Now it's like at a point where I can do it. But before I had like 20-ish divines invested, I just think it's not worth my time. I'd rather just run more maps. And here we're done. So you don't have to do the boss because we're not really getting extra rewards from him because we're singular focus, and it just takes a long time, right? So yeah, that would be a map. So just a quickie here once again about the league mechanic. I want to drive this home. I already talked about this when we did the map right now, but if you're just starting to gear and you want to do the league mechanic, I understand. It's the new thing. I would usually never tell you not to do it. If you care about currency, you should skip it if you don't have already an established good character. Right now, the rewards you're getting are balanced around endgame, where you have like full sextant set up. Every map costs you like a divine to run or whatever. And then the multiplier you get from the league mechanic is insane. Right now, it is barely anything. You will see extra maps drop, sometimes extra scarabs. That's totally fine. But it is not worth the time, not even close. Legion and Expedition, if you can just do more per hour, will blow this out of the water. So that is just my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. Right now, it's completely overtuned. I think most people in the community already know. And in a week or so, when everybody has geared characters, it's going to be fine. But just right now, so if you're watching this in the future, I guess, if you have like 100 div in your character, completely ignore this. But otherwise, just make sure that you don't waste your time. Now, another thing that can definitely happen to you is that you just cannot run Legion, right? Maybe your build doesn't allow for it, or maybe you don't feel strong enough yet. Well, the answer is you have to find something else. The league mechanic is going to make everything crazy, so you basically have to make sure that you don't do the league mechanic, otherwise everything is going to feel like trash. But down below, I will link this tree right here. This is basically just the bare minimum Expedition tree. Expedition is where it all starts. Expedition is incredibly good on League Start. There's a reason why so many people use it. And it doesn't really get bad. So there is no reason, even if you're just starting out, there's just no reason not to use it. Now, what can you pair it with? Because as you can see right here, I'm not even using that many of my points. I'm only using 81 out of 132. And obviously you could fill it in with like small points or something if you want to, but there's better options out there. Some people are running Harvest. If you are running Harvest, then you would probably go for a Wandering Path right here. So you would get Wandering Path and actually unspec out of, for example, this node, probably all of these nodes, and just every notable, because they don't work anymore. Now, a big problem with that will be that your expeditions will be a lot worse, because you're not going to get as much Tujen and Danik, so your reroll currency will be worth less, and the currency that you get, you can't really use at vendors anymore. Another possibility is you just go full-on Smuggler's Caches, and you sell those blueprints and those contracts. The main issue is, it's very, very good. A lot of people do it, and it is very rewarding. But you will have to sell on TFT. There is no other way. Like selling those on trade, good luck. It's a lot of trading, and you will have to do with a lot of people who just ask you really weird stuff like, what levels are your contracts, blah, 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 right? So if you don't want that, definitely don't do that. Another obvious one would be Essences, which is probably the strongest one overall in terms of currency. However, Essences are also very hard. And if you ever just touch the league mechanic, just know that some of these Essence mobs touched with the league mechanic will be harder than Uber bosses. I wish I was kidding. So if you're going Essences, super strong, just make sure you never ever do the league mechanic. And as for Ultimatum, you maybe want to try that out, but the thing is, it's not very good right now. It is completely undertuned. People are already posting hilarious clips of getting absolutely nothing for 10 waves, even for 13 waves, which is, by the way, incredibly hard for non-geared characters anyways. So I would not do it personally. Ultimatum is probably something that actually comes out next league, but we'll see about it. Maybe somebody figures something out. Another thing you can always do is add a little bit of extra Mirror of Delirium chance, right? Farm those Delirium Orbs, sell them in bulk. They sell extremely well as always. Sell Simulacrums or whatnot. What you're looking for is all the chance to gain Mirror of Delirium, chance for extra rewards right here, right? If you're having problems keeping up, you can also make it last longer. So yeah, you can play around with that, but I'll leave the clean Expedition without Legion down below in the description as well. In terms of how to sell your stuff, there is 2 resources I have. The first one is I made a video a while ago about bulk selling. Nothing really changed. This is one of the most important things you have to know if you want to be involved in this economy. You need to know how to sell your stuff efficiently and as fast as possible, and for that you kind of need to understand what's going on. As well as that, I'm always doing selling streams around about every week or so. My latest one was literally just yesterday, so once again, the VOD will be linked down in the description if you actually care enough to look into that. Everything's there. And yeah, that's about it for this starter farming strat. My brain tells me I need to reroll right now. I want to play a new build, so we're going to do that pretty damn soon. More info on that in a bit. I hope this guide could help you out a little bit in terms of farming your own currency for whatever you have planned next. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.